Welcome to the Between the Fur podcast, the show that allows professional mascot performers from the NBA and other pro sports to share their bizarre, funny and inspirational stories and give exclusive insight on what it's like behind the scenes and between the fur. Hosted by award-winning NBA mascot performer, Kenn Solomon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Fur. I'm your host, Kenn Solomon, and today I have my former assistant, Jay the Dr. Evans. Yes. In the house here, we have done a podcast before.
We have.
Yep, or you've been on an episode before.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to have you back.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, man. So, but before, I want to not go right to our commercial. I want to go to something else right off the bat here. I've been asked recently, why the podcast? Why are you talking? Why are you, mascots are usually
I was about to say, you had to hold your tongue for 30 years.
Right?
You have a lot to say now.
I do. It's bursting. However, that's not really why.
Okay.
When I started this podcast, I decided that people needed to hear stories. A lot of this from not so much myself, my story. My stories are great, yeah, whatever. However, there's so many more out there. There's so many mascots, and nobody knows behind the scenes. Everybody thinks that, professional mascots are just getting paid with a beer after the game or something like that. And they don't understand that it's an actual job. It's full-time for most. I won't say all. And there's so many stories, good, bad, fails to fear to the touching people's hearts type. I just figured that these stories need to be told at some point. And that's why I'm rambling on here right at the beginning of this. We haven't even gotten started. So let's get started. But that's why I wanted to get that out there, and it's to educate and inspire, hopefully, and
yeah, a lot of times when you give, you actually are the one that receives more than the person you're giving to.
Exactly. Thank you. All right. So Jay Evans, you started with me when? It was
2006.
I was going to say 6. Yes. Yeah. And it was interesting. I have to tell you this part of, before you get talking here, that when we were looking for someone, it was a process. They didn't want a full-time person anymore. I'm like, I did all I could to convince, and then I finally, I was in the process of found the person, trying to convince them that I needed a full-time, and then I found out you were bilingual, and it was so easy after that. I'm like, look, I've got a guy here that, he's bilingual, and there's so much that we do and that requires blah blah blah. Got you in there, and it was magic right out of the gate, and I was so sad to see you go. I remember the day that they were doing cutbacks. It was right at the beginning of the recession, and 2008
2009 then.
9
season.
Yeah. Yep, 2009. And I'm getting that mixed up with my second marriage. Okay. Yeah.
Those can easily. Sometimes our relationship felt like that.
It certainly did. Oh, yeah. Okay. However, I was really sad. I was super sad, mad, and it did feel like a divorce when.
Yeah, you think you were?
Oh my gosh, it felt like a death. You called me up and you were like, "Hey, man, did you know anything about this?" I'm like, "No, about what?"
Yeah.
They didn't.
It was out of left field for all of us.
Didn't even consult me or give me the heads up that they were letting you go.
And I think it came back to what you were saying, is how they, didn't value that position as much as they should have, because they didn't have a great understanding of how much goes into behind the scenes of the performance. You know, the planning, the organizing, the community outreach, the public relations part of it, where a mascot goes out and to do the top tier performance, which you always did, there were hours spent on phone calls between us, shooting ideas back and forth, kind of going over ideas and skits and jokes. And did you see this or did you see that? Look what's viral right now. There's research happening. And they think that a guy shows up, throws on an animal suit or a costume of some sort, and just goes out and performs off the cuff. And it was interesting because it's one of the things I think we should talk about is how that hiring process works to get into professional sports. I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, I want to get into game entertainment. I want to get into professional sports and that world. And it's kind of a unique interview process, the way that it goes, the positions that are open, and how you kind of get your foot in the door with that. Because you and I had a lot of sit downs before I ever met anybody from the HR department of the Denver Nuggets.
We did. We sat and talked about what it takes. I mean, I remember saying, hey, you got to read my mind. You got to become a mind reader.
Yeah.
And I've said that to every assistant that I've had. And how you got to think ahead. You got to look ahead. Everything's telling a story. That's what entertainment is. It's a beginning, middle, and end.
It's interesting because there's two pieces to that with the story. There's the one game story that for a fan that comes down and they're only going to see one game all season long. They've saved their money. It's their favorite team. They come down. They want the whole game entertainment experience. You have to be able to tell a unique and story that pulls them in from the first quarter to the end of the game and it be one and done. But then you have the whole other side of the fans that are season ticket holders, and they are there every single game. And how do you reward them for continuing to play along with those running gags that you have throughout the whole season while you're building a season-long narrative as a mascot, as an entertainment department, where they anticipate this or they know what's coming, and half the laugh and half the smile is, oh, I know where he's going with this because I've been at 20 other ones where they're setting this joke up. Mm-hmm. And so you're trying to entertain and cater to two different fans, and that's a challenge in itself.
And just from that right there, did you ever think that you'd be talking about this? Did you ever think that you'd see that side of...
I mean, everybody grows up and it's like, you know what, I want to run around and shoot T-shirts for a living and follow grown men that dress up in Halloween costumes 365 days a year. That's everybody's dream. So no, I didn't. In fact, I went to school and I knew I wanted to work in professional sports, and I wanted to go into sports broadcasting. And so my first job in the NBA was actually in the Jumbotron side of it, the video production side of it. And as I was doing that with a different team, I had the opportunity to...
You can say the Jazz.
Okay. I worked with the Utah Jazz before the Denver Nuggets, and for years I would be on the creation, the editing side of it, but we worked in the off season with all the entertainment, with the mascot, with the dancers, with drill teams and bands and things like that. And I saw that, wow, you know what? There is more that you can do with the entertainment. There's things that is so fun, that's exciting. It's an imaginative piece of this industry, and I wanted to be part of that. And so when the opportunity came, when I heard about the game entertainment coordinator position with the Nuggets, yeah, I was on the phone trying to get that position right away with you.
Yeah, and it is so important to find the right person for any position in any job, right? But man, this is such a fine point, position. Like you really need to find that person. If you do, it opens up so much more in the entertainment, the ease of the position.
Yeah.
And future assistants as well. Because so from where you started, or even before you, okay, my kids grew up in the arena, right? McNichols Arena. We found some video the other day of them sitting on their mom's lap. And
was that last week, Cade? Kind of weird, but I'm glad your family's close.
Yeah. and then from McNichols, they not only get to see other mascots, and I took them on trips with me and things like that, but to watch my assistants all along the way, they ended up to be great assistants, amazing.
Yeah.
Closing out my career with Cade here as my assistant was top notch. Drake, just before him, and then a combination. I actually ended up with as a combination of Drake and Cade at the end, and nothing better. I nothing against you, but nothing better to be working with my sons and them being on top of everything, learning from you guys. And you had such a strong impact on
Well, you brought it up where it's kind of like a marriage, because it is a unique relationship. There's a dance that goes on where every relationship, there needs to be a gas pedal and a brake. Someone's pushing it forward, someone's got an idea, and every once in a while I had to be the brake and go, Ken, that is a fantastic idea if you want to kill yourself, or there's no way they're going to let us do that, so let's revise it so that we can actually pass it and do that. And then other times you were the one that had to be, all right, Jay, that's a great idea, I can't do that, and so there's that play, because for some people in their work, they go there, they come to work, they sit in a desk, they do their job, and then they go home. And for our positions, there wasn't a set time. It wasn't like we get in the office at 8 a.m. and then we go home at 4 in the afternoon or 5 in the afternoon. We did one skit where we did a promotion where we put you on the roof of the Pepsi Center for a week or 2 weeks or some ridiculous amount of time. And I mean, we're there at sunrise, and all through the night they're having video check-ins with us. You got to like that person that you're working with. We would fly. We went international together. We went to multiple states together. We were there when the season wasn't going. We were going to elementary schools and hospitals, doing public appearances. We did armed forces tours. But we weren't just office coworkers. We would drive and fly and basically live together for most of the year.
Yeah, you have to like somebody, and you have to mesh.
Yeah.
And we did. So,
and
I
I had to be in the van when you're like walking around in boxers before you put on the costume. Everybody thinks that they get to see the mascot all the time. You forget. You got to be real secure with yourself.
Yeah, we finally got a curtain. Yeah. Just for everyone listening.
Once budget finally approved that.
Yes. Can we get that curtain finally? So, okay, I want to get into some of these skits real quick, but I want to finish this thought. How then do you suggest somebody work on getting into the business?
Let's take a minute and just share how we did it. I have a close friend, and he had a daughter that just graduated from a university, and he called me up and he goes, "Hey, my daughter wants to get into pro sports. Could you talk to her and just give an experience or a tip or two that would help her out?"
Run.
And I said, "Yeah, definitely change a career path." No, I said, absolutely. So I had multiple calls with this young woman, and she's great, very talented, a Division I athlete, well-spoken, everything that you would think you need for this. And I told her, I said, you might have your dream of a certain position in professional sports broadcasting or entertainment, but there's so few spots. There are so few professional mascots in the NBA. There's so few game entertainment coordinators. So get in wherever you can get in. And I knew I was willing to do that. And it was funny because you told me it was a part-time thing. And I remember we had a conversation.
That's what it was. That's what they were pushing for at
That's what they're
first.
doing. And I said, hey, just get me in front of them. And I'll tell them I'll take anything that they want to give. If it was 1 hour a week or if it was 40 hours a week. But I knew that I was going to be able to bring more value than what they thought at the first. And so I said, let me do this. Let me start doing public appearances with Rocky. We were running around in a different city, and instead of sitting around and waiting until we got to the arena, you and we got the video camera out, and we just started doing the jaywalking, like the Jay Leno stuff down around the city and asking funny questions and just doing skits and gags. And I would be behind the camera getting you stuff, doing funny things, messing with the crowd, messing with just people on the street. And then you would take the camera and have me interview people on the street. But we were going above and beyond, not just fulfilling our job responsibility or description that we had. And that's one of the things that's really necessary in this industry is that, look at the big picture and say, what could we do to improve the experience for our fans and for the people that we're going to be serving throughout the season?
Exactly. And it doesn't really matter. Don't get overwhelmed with, well, I'm not able to do that because I don't have that talent or I don't have that. Hey, use what you do have, which yours was a little bit of broadcast background.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go shoot some stuff.
Right.
Oh, I'm, hey, that's all I need to hear from you. And then, bringing that value and those, it became a full-time position very quickly for you.
Yeah.
And
they just kept asking for more things. They were saying, hey, can you do this with Rocky? Can you go out there and we're going to an elementary school. Can you MC the public appearance of Rocky? Well, sure, I'll do that. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any idea what that even meant. What, I'm supposed to translate his gestures, or what am I supposed to do? But you have to just take those opportunities and you have to start building. It was kind of funny when you did finally convince them that they were going to hire an assistant. I went to the person over all of entertainment, and that was my first interview. And I remember I was raised in a way that you dress your best to impress, right? So I came in a suit, my shoes were shined, and I walk into this game entertainment director's office for an interview, and he looks at me like I came from the moon, and he says, if you ever wear a suit in front of me again, I will not hire you. So the second time I get called back for a second interview, and that's ringing in my head, and I'm going, he told me not to wear a suit, but everything I've ever done is I'm always like, this is your best impression. I want to be overdressed, not underdressed. What if I show up in shorts and this guy goes, he's not taking this interview seriously? So sure enough, I rolled the dice and I came up in a suit again. And the first thing he says as I walk into the office, he said, I thought I told you never to wear a suit in front of me. You really don't want this job? And I said, how about I take the suit jacket off? And he goes, all right, at least that's a start. But I was willing to say, I'm going to take a risk because I have an idea. I want to show them that I'm a unique thinker and that I'm going to bring something different. If they wanted the same thing as they've always had, they would have just kept that previous person.
And I couldn't have just any ordinary.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
No, you don't really work the ordinary very well, Ken. No, not at all. And that's kind of how what worked with us is one of the things that we really did was realize that if we had an idea, let's make it as big as possible when we present it. Let's say if we needed an animal on the court, let's start by asking for an elephant.
Oh, okay. So earlier we were talking and I said, I'm going to wait for this. So I literally have, and sorry, I'm interrupting right here, but this is something I use all the time. We were talking about what can we do for Rocky's birthday?
Yeah.
And you said, hey man, let's, I don't know, can we do a petting zoo or can we do it? And we were kicking things around like that. And you go, hey, well, if we're going to do that, then why don't we bring in some elephants?
Yeah.
And I'm like, elephant? Like, what? Come on, man.
Rocky riding an elephant? That's great. That's
I know,
comic
right?
gold.
But for me, at the time, it was like revolutionary.
Yeah.
That right there explained in a nutshell what I was always trying to think. It kind of just brought it all together for me. I'm like, that's what I've been doing all this time. I've been trying to think elephants. From then on, I thought elephants. I was talking to a guy the other day. I'm writing a book, and here I am. We're talking about it and everything. And I said, we have to have a chapter on elephants.
Yeah.
Think elephants.
Think elephants.
Yeah. And it's become the metaphor for
Going big.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Obviously, of course, in that meeting, people were like, well, we can't get an elephant here. We can't do that. We can't.
And we kind of knew that they would never approve the elephant. But if we pitched the elephant.
You start there.
Yeah. There was always, a give and take on that. One of my favorite ones was actually one of the things that led into one of Rocky's most viral moments with your rappel entrance from above the Jumbotron. And obviously we know the one in the video where you passed out coming down.
Yep.
But do you remember before when we were talking about different types of entrances that Rocky would do? One of the things we threw out was the idea of installing a zip line from the top of the rafters down to the court. And we said, that's not big enough. We need it even cooler than that. Like, a zip line's awesome. They'll probably never approve it. But let's say zip line through a flaming ring, letting go, landing in a baby pool. We were just throwing out the most outlandish ideas ever, because we're saying, if we start with the zip line through the fire into the tiny little pool, well, they may not say yes to that, but okay, then will you let me Aussie style rappel down onto the court? And they're like, that seems a lot safer than the fire.
Right.
So.
I mean, if you're gonna get into a position like this in professional sports, you have to think larger than life. The game is larger than life. The atmosphere is larger than life. You got to think way outside the box. Another one that, when you brought this to me, I was like, there is no way, but I love the way you think, was OK Go. When the OK Go song was big, and the video was amazing with the treadmills.
Yeah, it was basically the most watched video going on YouTube at that time.
Yeah.
Where they were dancing on treadmills.
I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
I knew the song, but I hadn't seen the video. And you're like, no, check it out. Here, look. So we looked at this video, and I'm like, wait, well, how are we going to do that? You're like, it's a halftime. It's going to be Rocky's birthday. Let's do that.
Right.
I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. So the next thing I know, though, is Jay here has 6 treadmills. Is it 6? No, 8. 8 treadmills being delivered.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Wait. Where are they coming from?
And
Tell them that one.
Well, you have your performance. There's a standard that Rocky always met.
Thank you.
Like, he did not. He didn't do anything only 50% in. He wasn't dipping a toe. He was saying, I have a standard. People expect this from me. I don't know how we're going to pull this off, because if it's going to be mascots, these are professional mascots that have teams and games and responsibilities. How are they going to have the time to learn this entire dance? And I'm not going to do this where it's just a cheap knockoff. If I'm going to learn this dance, we are going to do it the exact video. And that's what I loved about you, is that you were saying, okay, I'm totally down with this idea. I don't know how we're going to pull it off. So explain to me how we can do it, because if we're going to have these 4 mascots doing it, it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of practice and commitment to doing that. And this is where we got creative, because the luxury that costumes allow you to do is people don't know the actor and the performer underneath.
Especially if they're not from there.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
No one really knows
Yeah, if you're picking Real Madrid's mascot from Spain, they don't know how he acts in Denver, Colorado.
Right.
But when we pitched the idea to the actual performers, they're also protective of their character and the quality of that they have built their character to. And they were like, well, we don't let people in our costumes. Like nobody else. There's one.
That is like...
That's
okay.
the rule.
Yeah, exactly. You
Rule
might as well
number
ask
one.
them if we can set them on fire.
Yeah. Nobody gets in my costume. Nobody talks about the Fight Club. So
Exactly.
those are the rules. And we had spent, an entire week, hours and hours and hours after hours. I mean, till 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, working on the court, practicing this, getting it just right. I mean, just an exact duplicate of the OK Co video for the Mascots. Same pace of song, same movement pace and speed. And when they saw it, they just started laughing, and they were like, absolutely, you can use my suit. This is going to be great. I'm going to take all the credit for it.
Exactly.
No one will ever know it wasn't me.
And we were even trying to match height.
Oh, yeah.
Of the person that,
A shorter performer. We wanted person.
We wanted nothing to slip through the cracks there.
Yeah.
And be a potential fail.
That was the attention to detail that you always had. And that's what I loved, because when I threw out a crazy idea, I knew that before Rocky decided to do it, that it would meet your professionalism grading, like your barometer, and you'd be like, is it up to my standard? And it always was. Otherwise, it didn't go out on the court, and I love that about that. But that performance, that halftime, because not only did we have to learn it, we also had to pass safety, and the court itself is like a temple. Oh my goodness. They will not let a woman walk on the court with high heel shoes. And we're saying, we're going to drag 8 treadmills out to the middle of it in the middle of a game.
And get power out to them.
Yeah. I mean, the number of people that had to be right on point to pull that one off was amazing, and it went great. The crowd reaction was just as expected and what we had hoped for. It was one of my favorite moments that we did together.
One of my top skits. One of my
still
top
floating around
moments.
on YouTube if you want to go look for it.
We'll probably throw it in this podcast. We'll probably throw it in on this. I do have to say this, that our building guy, Dirk.
Yeah.
Man, he and I had our rough moments. We ended up on great terms. Love the guy now. But at the time, he was like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so what? But he goes, nope.
Always defaulted to no.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, so if we, how can we get to a maybe or a, possibly yes?
Yeah.
And he's like, there's no way you're getting that, all of that on the court and off in time. I'll tell you that right now. I'm like, okay, if timing's the issue, I can handle that. I can handle that. We can practice, and we can. What other issues? You're going to scratch the court. Okay, what if now they have wheels? And I went through the whole thing. What if we put mats down, and they each were playing? Yeah. Okay. I'm like, okay. So what's the next? I mean, we went through each detail. Well, okay. I can't get that much power out there. What kind of power are we talking? Can we get longer extension cord? Yep. I mean, we went through the whole thing, and it ended up that we pushed and pushed and pushed in the right way. And in the end, I mean, all these people wanted to be part of the production anyways, And when we were done, Dirk was like, well, I didn't think that was going to happen, but man, that was pretty good. That was really good.
It goes back to that chasing the elephant.
Yep.
Where instead of when you get that first pushback or resistance, instead of giving up on that, there's always a workaround. Find the workaround. Keep going and show how it is possible to do it and what the benefit was going to be. I mean, this is a facility that puts on massive concerts. They obviously have the power in the building. How do they get it to the stage when it's a center stage? why can't we do that on the basketball court? Oh yeah, we could do that. I remember that conversation with him, and we was going, oh yeah, so we just run it like a concert. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That might work. But how do we not dent the floor? How much weight is on those treadmills?
Yeah.
Well, not
Tell
as
me
much as some of those
real
guys.
quick. I got to know, again, you got to tell me where you got those treadmills. This is so funny.
So I actually first started just calling gyms, like 24-hour fitness and Gold's Gym, and asking if they
Cold
have-
calling.
Yeah, just cold calling out of the blue. This is really weird, but this is Jay from the Denver Nuggets. We're wanting to do this. Could we do a sponsorship with you guys, something like that? Just getting creative, just chasing down these. And sure enough, one of the gyms, a local gym, had a surplus of them. They actually have a storage room of ones in case one breaks down. They just roll one out and put a new one in overnight. And they're like, yeah, we probably have 8 back there. And they brought them down for us. They didn't want anything. They just thought it was fun. They just wanted tickets to the game that night. And we did it. And we pulled that one off.
And they just delivered them. They just brought them to us, unloaded them.
Unload them. Just here you go, guys.
Yeah.
Had no idea. They thought we were crazy, but they like crazy. So, but
Find that right person.
this actually, I just had a thought because it kind of goes into how to get into this industry. Like, I heard a story one time about you in college. And you got to tell me if this story is true. Now, you went to school. You were a mascot at a school in Utah, right?
Utah State.
Utah State. And Utah State, one of their rivals is BYU.
Big rival.
Okay, and I heard that you did something crazy with their mascot and almost got banned from performing.
Yeah.
Tell me.
It's true. Yeah.
Tell me the full story of this one.
So I used to make, and I started this in high school.
Yeah.
Started to make dummies of referees, and then I started making dummies of other mascots, the other team's mascots.
So this is what I heard. This is
they're-
hilarious.
They're made out of foam. I'd go get a 4-inch thick thing of foam and a electric knife. Man, that's magic. You can just cut through this stuff, and then I would shape it and blah blah blah, paint it, and I spent a lot of time with foam. Then for this game, I came to the game against BYU. I'm like, I'm gonna make a Cosmo, and they're so strict
BYU's
there. They're
mascot.
they're so strict there. This is their mascot, and so I show up, and at this big break, I don't know if it was after the halftime show or what it was, but I got some time out on. I think it was after the halftime show. I go out I just all of a sudden I'm walking out on the field. There's no one out there, and I walk out on the field, center field, in front of, I don't know. I mean, this stadium at BYU is huge.
With a foam
With
Cosmo.
the foam Cosmo. And I held it up like,
Hey.
yay,
Here's your
I'm
mascot.
honoring your mascot. Yes, here he is. And, of course, the crowd comes apart. They just love the fact that I'm, honoring and holding up their mascot. Well, then I bring it down, brought my hand slowly over the head of it, and just grabbed the neck and just ripped the head off this foam dummy and held the head up like, how's that? Yeah.
Decapitated the opposing team's mascot.
Oh, they came apart. I mean, that's one of the biggest boos I've ever got. And I threw that head down like I just slam dunked it, and or spiked it. And then I grab an arm. Off comes an arm. Off comes the other arm. And I left it at that. I didn't rip legs off. And then I just took off. I left it there. Why not? And I start walking off the field to the biggest boos. I'm taking my bow. I'm like, thank you. I'm kissing, the air, doing all, And as I'm doing all this, I look over kind of out of the corner of the eye here, and off to the side, I see Cosmo running, like the real Cosmo, running around the end of the field because he's not allowed on the field. He's running around the end, and then he's running up the sideline at me as I'm approaching the sideline myself, and I'm anticipating and I thought, you know what? If this was any other school, it'd be an all-out brawl right now. But this is BYU. He can't brawl. I've got him. So he runs up, but he starts to, just slow down a little bit. Like, I don't know what to do now. So I stepped into him. Like, I stepped into him, threw my arm underneath his crotch, and threw him up over me, and he kind of flipped over the other side of me, and I put my hands up and kind of ran off after that. So he kind of flipped over me.
Yeah.
That was, it was a little tense after that.
But it goes back.
The worst part, though, I have to tell you this, is I had to do a game later that evening, a basketball game. It's when it was overlapping seasons. So it was a football game during the day, basketball game at night at BYU. Same two teams. And I have to go out there on their turf again. Yeah, I had already spent my dummy, so I didn't do that bit that evening.
But what it goes back to is that story we were just talking about. Anytime you can increase the emotion of the fan base, it improves their game watching experience. You created a narrative of good guy versus bad guy, where now they have something to look forward to. Some of those students, I'm sure, went to football in the afternoon. We're at the basketball game, and we're already anticipating this ongoing good versus evil, where you're the evil guy and our mascot's the good guy, and looking forward to the next chapter. You're building that story. The other thing is that by doing those things, that's how you get the experience to get to a point where you're a professional mascot. It doesn't just happen where one day you go down and you're like, oh, there's a listing for a mascot. The way that you guys take your craft so seriously, you've been practicing, you're seeing what works, you're seeing what will get a good reaction, what is overstepping the bounds where you're going, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. It didn't go quite the way I wanted it to do. But you get better and better by growing that story, by learning and getting that experience. I know for me, when I was trying to get in and I knew I wanted to do something with the television entertainment, I would go to high school games and I would practice narrating the game as a play-by-play person. People would be looking at me like, why are you talking into those old dictaphones, like the old recording device? Yeah. And I'd just be listening to that about how can I do that? How can I get better? Then I got hired by the Jazz, and I was saying, hey, what can I do for the entertainment? Because I wanted to get into that. I'll do anything. I'll show up early. I'll stay late. But if you want to do this business, you have to have the end in mind. You need to be able to start early, knowing where you want to go, and get better and better and practice and try things. Oh, yeah, look at that. You got a little guy right there that kind of looks like Big Blue. Mm-hmm. Missing an arm. Is that fitting? Is that why?
Rip his arm off. Yeah. Well, I also was going to comment on that last little part there. You also need to not only practice, start with the end in mind, and all that, but you also need to expose yourself to the right people. It's not about who, and you can take it a step further. It's not about who you know. It's about who knows you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it is about, I've got a kid that reaches out to me constantly. Hey, what would you suggest about this? Hey, do you know anybody that could help me with this? Or, absolutely, work your connections.
Right.
Do you know anybody that works there? Do you know anybody that knows anybody that might know somebody that cleans the floors at the, whatever? And
unnamed kid, keep doing that. Keep reaching out to him. It's going to help. It's going to pay off.
Yeah. And that's Adam Chang, by the way. A little shout out to Adam.
What's up, Adam?
Yeah, he's great. And he even came out and shadowed me.
Yeah.
A couple times. Okay, so speaking of elephants, another elephant that I attribute to Dr. J is the ladder.
Yeah.
The ladder shot.
Oh.
Man,
that video that you did that you released earlier, it's kind of the end of the year highlight thing where you're climbing up the ladder and you did your backwards shot and made that made me sick. Like, that gave me vertigo watching that.
I remember your comment on that video. I just threw up.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah. But that ladder, how we always try and take something to the next level. Started doing half-court shots forward, then backwards, then on stilts, and then on a ladder. And then one day you say, hey,
I found a company.
that will
do a ladder on top of a ladder.
Yep. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. I just said, we got to get you as high, because you're not scared of heights. And so I just figured we've got to get the biggest ladder, the tallest ladder, the highest ladder that we can find. And so we started. You actually had a first one that was pretty tall, and then it has grown and matriculated to what it is now.
One day he's like, this is the largest, the highest ladder that you can buy.
This is the biggest one. It's a standalone ladder.
Yep. And we got that thing. It's like 27 feet high.
It's like 300 feet.
Yeah, when you're up there, that's what it feels like. And
does that thing sway as much as it looks like?
Oh, yeah. More than what it looks like.
Right.
Because I don't think it even looks like it sways. However, you ordered this thing.
Yeah.
It came in. We went and picked it up.
Well, we had to practice because you would get up there and I'd have to throw you the ball up to the top. And it's just a heave. I mean, it's not like handing it up there a 6-foot ladder or a 10-foot ladder. I mean, you're bending that down and throwing it up 30 feet in the air, and you have to catch it in your mask. I still don't know how you do it.
It took a lot of practice. But climbing up there the first time, to go from an angle and then pull that ladder up, and then you change to straight up, that was really weird. I mean, awkward. I almost felt like I was going to fall over backwards. But then you get up to the top and you start throwing, and that thing sways. Yeah. I mean, it gives like 6-8 inches.
I can only imagine. I'm never getting up there. That was one thing. Yeah, I ordered that ladder. I never climbed that ladder.
You never did?
Never once. Not past the extension.
Oh my gosh.
No way.
Well, it was spooky at first.
Yeah, I valued
Got
my
used
life.
to it. But even that, I ended up first, throwing it, and I thought, you know what? I can't just throw it in. I'll have to bounce it in. Yeah. That's a long ways. Well, after a while of bouncing it in, I got to where I could bounce it in. Man, that was a tough shot. Well, then I realized I could probably just try and throw it in, and that's what I ended up doing. Is after
football style.
Yeah,
just a throw.
Yeah. So I threw it in, and that was actually a lot easier than bouncing it in.
I was about to say, personally, I prefer the bounce. I mean, the crowd reaction the first time you did the bounce and you made that.
Oh, it was unreal.
Oh, it was like you walked on the moon. Like, nobody does that.
I walked on the moon. And then, where do you take it from there, though?
How do you go bigger?
Backwards.
What's the next step? Yeah.
Backwards. It was always something. We moved it back a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was one that ladder shot I have to attribute to the brain of Jay over here.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
It was one of the crazy ideas that we threw out, and hey, this sounds fun.
Kept going bigger and ended up having some really good.
I mean, between that
footage,
the OK Go, rollerblading, slingshot, dunk from the 3-point line.
That's right.
A lot of the things that. You should be grateful that everything's intact on you still.
You tried to kill me.
Yeah.
Tried to dismember me a few times.
I just wanted to see what you'd say yes to.
Always say yes.
Right.
Always say
default to yes.
Like the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Jim
but
Carrey.
No, that was awesome. I love that's a tradition that you kept and that's still going on today. And so many people enjoy that because it is crazy. You're crazy to do that.
Well, whenever you're faced with a decision and you're trying to make a move in life, think elephants.
Yeah. End of your life, you don't regret what you did do. You always regret what you didn't do.
There you go.
So,
Mic drop. Next up, I want to ask you a couple of things before we wrap up here. What's your most meaningful memory from the time that we had together? Because there was times we had some tender moments with, a kid or a children's hospital or whatever. What? Give me something that stands out in your mind. Do you?
Oh, I loved all of those. Of course, game nights are fantastic. The energy, the excitement, that's fun. But are fun moments the meaningful moments in your life? Most of the time not, right?
Right.
There's unique moments where you go, holy cow, I'm actually bringing joy or happiness to somebody's life. And I had no idea that, a mascot really has that effect. I knew that in the arena, people like them. They put their kids up and get a picture next to them. But how it extends and reaches outside of the arena and the impact that you guys have. A couple of the ones that stand out is we did an armed forces tour over to Europe. And I remember I had the privilege of emceeing that. And then we took dancers and we took the mascot and we had a whole variety show on bases for the servicemen. Thank you to all of you that are serving our country and giving us the freedoms that we have. But to see the excitement and the tears, a couple moms would come up and they'd bring the kids and they would tell us, we can't believe you came all the way over here, that you guys took your time during your off season, kind of your vacation, your summer break, to come over across the pond and visit us. I mean, a couple of the rooms there were 50 people in. Other ones there was 500 people. But they were so grateful that they weren't forgotten. That people back home still cared. And I saw that people were pulling out old Nugget shirts, and we're in, Belgium, and they're wearing Nugget shirts. And I'm going, this is so cool, the effect that it has. We had Eddie Nájera was a Mexican-born NBA player, and he had a foundation down in Mexico, and he would bring NBA players, but he brought the Nuggets entertainment down there, and to see the international effect and the excitement that they had and the gratitude that we would come down and perform and play and entertain them, it was wild. And there was one time that we went to it was a 60th birthday party.
That's right.
The wife reached out to me and said, is there any way possible that Rocky does a birthday party appearance? And going with the theme, she was reaching for the elephants, right? She was like, can I have Rocky come to my husband's birthday party? This guy's turning 60 years old. This isn't a child. This isn't a kid that thinks it's funny with the mask. No, this is a true fan that had loved the Nuggets, had loved the basketball experience, but specifically had bonded with this mascot, with Rocky. And when I said yes, I could tell she about fell out of her chair. And we made the arrangements. We got the plan together. It was going to be a surprise, and Rocky was going to come running into the 60th birthday party. And the guy was speechless. He could not believe that Rocky from the Nuggets was coming to his birthday party. And it's those small moments that I saw that there was the true excitement, the gratitude, and just the overall connection that people feel with professional sports, with the entertainment side of it, not just the athletes themselves, but it's something that brings us all together. We all have our stress in our lives. We all have the things that weigh us down. And we see that this professional sports, the entertainment side of it, the mascots and everything that you guys do, it gives people an escape from the stress and the pressure and the sadness that they may feel for those fleeting moments. And when you get to experience that, it's just something that really touches all of our hearts.
That's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that. I remember that conversation when we were in, was it Belgium? It was Belgium, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that conversation you had with that. They were so, in fact, that was in Italy. They said that as well there. Yeah, thank you for making the trip.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they feel unappreciated.
Yeah.
And in the moment that we can do that, and that's just anybody, of course it's servicemen and women, but it's just the average Joe that's going to his job every day.
Yeah.
That maybe feels unseen, or that, for those moments that, guess what? This is just bringing a smile to my face, and I love it. I love this guy. Look at, he's got a lightning bolt for a tail. Like, that's great. And when you can bring happiness to people, it's really filling my cup more than their cup. They always did more for us than we ever did for them.
Yeah.
And I was just grateful for that time that we got to see those smiles on kids' faces, them just going crazy. I apologize to every elementary school teacher that had to handle those children after our appearances. Because we basically encouraged them to just act
we would wind them up.
Right.
And let them go.
Yeah. You're not screaming? You need to be screaming. You're not
Can't
jumping?
hear you.
You need to be jumping. Teachers are saying, sit down, behave appropriately, and we're saying, no, climb up the rafters. Let's get crazy. So I apologize to all those teachers out there. You guys do a great service for the children.
Yeah, sorry that you had to deal with that for the rest of the day. All right, so I think you
not
may
sorry.
have already answered this one. But one of my final questions for you here is, and like I said, but overall in your life, if it's a mascot thing, great. If it's not, I'm assuming it's not overall. But what overall in your life brings you joy?
Oh,
There's so much.
yeah.
There is so much going on in the world right now. There is so much, turmoil out there. What is it that brings you joy?
I think it goes back to what we're talking about. It's finding those simple things where you can get a release and just find the joy in the day-to-day. I teach this. I have 3 little kids. Hi, Landon, Kylie, and Quinn. But
Cutest kids ever.
I appreciate
Best kids
that.
for skits. If you
I
want to
think
fly
so,
them in,
but I made them.
Hey, if you're gonna fly them in for a skit, do the voodoo doll.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
Do the voodoo doll.
But what we do, and it's one of the things that I learned working with you, is include them. You did this with your 3 sons, that you made them part of what you did. You didn't have your job that was separate. You brought them in and gave them as many experiences as you could. You would take them on the road with you. You'd have them participate in skits. You'd have them going over there, kind of getting out of their shell, and getting out of their embarrassment, and just being able to express their feelings and to have fun and find joy in life. And I've tried to do that with my kids, where, have experiences. If you're embarrassed, that's great. If it's a lot like practicing skits, where try something, see if it works. That brings me joy, is seeing kids and seeing people get out of their comfort zone, experiencing something new, having a genuine laugh where you're going, that did not work. Or that worked perfectly. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could pull it off. And I did. And so where I find my joy is my family, obviously. But I love to teach them the same things, where it's going, go big, try it, get out of, push your own limits.
Yeah.
Be scared. When was the last time some of us ever really felt true fear? if we don't feel fear, we don't, then we start making up things to be scared about or to be worried about. Like, go ahead and try something where it gets you out of that comfort zone and really stretches yourself as a person. And when we do that, when we're like, then everything, colors are brighter, feelings are bigger. Just try it. And that's what I always encourage my kids. They've had the opportunity to come down and work with Rocky a couple times on skits, and they
not a couple
love
times,
it.
a bunch of times.
They've done it a bunch of times, and they think that just every kid gets to go down and play musical chairs with Rocky or go trick or treating with him. But they love it, and I really find joy with being a dad and a husband and seeing those smiles, because that's what I loved when we worked together, is seeing genuine smiles, the happiness that can exist in life from the simple and the escape from reality.
And it becomes infectious, and it touches your heart, and man, just makes, like you said, makes everything brighter and better.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Dude, I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate all you've done for me over the years, and
I appreciate that you let me come out again. It's a pretty elite company that are repeat, guests on the podcast.
Right?
The setup is impressive now.
Yeah, thank you. We keep stepping it up.
And have you tried these? Like, this Burr bottle's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah. Like, there's name brand ones that I've had. Don't function like this. This keeps everything cold.
And at half the price?
Half the price. Yeah, I'll shout it out. Like, it's every bit as good as any of the big names. And try a Burr bottle. Pick it up, you guys. I love it. I can testify. My water's still cold hours later. Delicious.
Boom, mic drop.
That's right.
And we're out. Thanks for listening, everybody. And check us out on all the platforms, and subscribe and hit that like button.
Thank you for listening. And now you know that there is a person inside there, a living, breathing human with emotions and feelings. If you would like your friends and family to know what is between the fur, please share. See you next time on Between the Fur.